There we go. Has it been in Roseville, you guys?
We are good. We actually went distance learning. And so in our K through 12. And so because of that, our program, our ECFE program has just, we delayed our start. So we technically don't start until January 31st on Monday is when we start. So I'm not sure. We'll kind of see what happens. I know our numbers are really high here for COVID. So, and we are doing a little bit of a lighter teaching schedule this semester. Partly due because our early childhood teacher is having a baby. And up until like a week ago, we didn't have anybody to fill her position. So we'll see how this semester goes.
Yeah. And Naomi, looks like you're home.
We do not have school today. I did not have a baby with me.
I thought we might be on baby watch. Okay. All right.
I'm on baby watch.
Yeah. Okay. So
Jan, you just gave yourself a super hard face rub. That was really long, like de-stressing. How are you? You look a little like blah.
So I'm in this parent ed room because Monday I'm starting to teach to fill in for somebody who resigned. So I'm just poking around, seeing what resources are here. I went up to my attic because I haven't had to teach for years, to find all my old files, to get some inspiration. And, on top of all of we've had staff with COVID, families with COVID. It has not hit my house. And I just was like talking to my brothers, like, have you guys had it? Because it feels like everybody around me has had it, but we haven't had it. And they're like, yeah, we've had it. We didn't tell you, like, yeah. So I don't know how it has skipped us because I have teenagers and they're not masking in school, it's just whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've been on this screen all morning too with another meeting. So I needed to rub my head. Thank you for noticing, Elle. I'm ready for the weekend.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm gonna be in Montgomery on Sunday. I'm gonna be down kind of near you visiting friends.
Yay. Well, how many classes are you going to be teaching then?
Well, I'm just taking on 2. So
okay, that's
it'll be my Monday morning, and it'll be bucket filling, and I will get to kind of get into the heads of parents again, and young parents, because I'm, as my daughter says, you are almost 50. So it'll be she reminds me of that apparently is old to her. It's not old. Just saying. And
Jen, 50 is the new 30.
Well, I remember way back when Oprah saying like, oh, 40 is the best. 40 is the best. And just recently I heard somebody say, no, 50 is the best. So I'm looking forward to whatever the best is. I'm looking forward to that.
Do you need us to provide you any words of inspiration to get back to teaching?
No, I think I'm okay. The person that I'm replacing was not properly licensed. She was the only person who applied for this job this year. I don't believe it was a great experience for the families. And so I think that it will be, we had to use several existing staff to piece together her position and cover all of her classes. They're not still all covered. But I think that it'll be good. It'll be fine. And I know parents really just want space provided to be together. And that's what I'm going to do.
Well,
give us a shout if you need any, like a lesson plan on something at short notice, just be like, hey, I need a lesson plan on blah, blah, blah.
Yep. Totally. If you got one, send it.
Or updated resources. I know that's one thing that, like, if you put something away, like if I put something away and then I pick it up after, I'm wondering, is there something newer that came out while I was,
freshen things up.
Right.
in line with what we talked about last week, I've since added a link to my email signature at school with a curated list of online resources, thanks to Ellen and Naomi. And so Jen, that might be something that would interest you, just in terms of because Ellen and Naomi are both younger than I am. I'm almost 50 too, and was feeling like I needed to kind of get some skills freshened up in that way. So I'd be happy to share my list, or the other ladies were super generous last week too. So
Please, yes. Do you want my email address?
Well,
Does that help?
I'm trying to figure out if I could. I'm on my home computer. Yes, give me your email address, because it's a ISD 169 link. So
I'll
Put it in
email
the
mine to
chat
you.
right now. Thank you
Okay.
so much. I appreciate it.
you are welcome.
Because Jen, that's the one piece I'll give to you. The other day, I think I mentioned this last week, I opened up my siblings file and it sucked. Like, I think the last time I had a good, do you ever open a file and you're like, oh my God, this lesson is 6 years old. It's terrible. I look at my handouts that I created 7-8 years ago and I'm like, this looks dated. And so what I did then is I've shared this before and I'm going to do it again, because I found great stuff on siblings just by typing in my favorite podcast. So I did Dr. Becky at Good Inside, siblings, Janet Lansbury, siblings, Dr. Lisa Pressman, Raising Good Humans, siblings. And I listened to 3 or 4 podcasts, probably took me 2 hours, but I got really fresh, new, fun things that I hadn't heard before. So don't be, and I feel like, and I had my siblings books, but they were like, blah, 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 dry. I can't read, don't have time to read the books. So don't be afraid of the podcast to really give you some fresh, new ideas in a hurry.
Do you
And
ever
also-
use podcasts? Do you ever like play pieces of podcasts or use clips? Yeah.
A little, I haven't as much, but boy, Sarah's nodding hard.
Yes, I am. So the podcast, like, I was skeptical of Dr. Becky at first because I am ageist, and I think it's also because I play her at 1.2 speech gets a little squeaky. So I'm like, oh, really? What new could there be on siblings? Like, we got this. But the fact of the matter is it's a fresh delivery, even if it's not fresh information, it's just a current delivery. And sometimes, yes, there are like new tidbits and all of that, but it's just, I think to play the podcast is also, I haven't done it too often, but I'm certainly not opposed to it as long as you curate like just a little bit of it. It takes prep to figure out like the right amount of time. So if you don't have the time to like distill down the right little snippet, I wouldn't do it. But it's like a nonverbal signal that you're trying to meet parents where they are. And it's a nice on-ramp, I think, for a 20-something.
I also just put a link in the chat, Faribault ECFE. They have a page and there's just a tremendous amount of information on that page and handouts and
I started
videos.
that.
It's so good, Ellen. I use that all the time.
That's my wiki.
That's what I thought.
I didn't even know it was still, I like didn't even pay attention that it was still there.
Yeah, it's great.
There's probably some real old stuff on there though. If I
There
look
is,
at
but
like,
there's also
my
some
first-
great, some of the information's still the same. It's good. It's good to go through and look through anyway. I've used some stuff from that.
I have also done, like in our classes, I have told parents to listen to a podcast before our class if they have time. Now, not everybody has time. And then we come back and discuss it. And that has worked really well, especially in some of our Zoom classes when we were, obviously during the pandemic, when we were only teaching online. And that just, parents loved that. Like, I got really great feedback on that. And I put in the chat to ask Lisa Demore. If anybody has listened to her podcasts, oh, I love her. And she's funny and she has guests and she does individual stuff too. But I just really like all of the things she has to say.
And it is fresh. Like it's not, a lot of it isn't the same. Like you were saying, Sarah, it's just a new way of thinking about it that I told, and then I will quote like if you know, at Lisa said in her latest podcast. So I just kind of feel like my quotes, things that I'm quoting from people, like I was listening to a podcast and this person said, you know, I just feel like it's a little bit newer than saying this book written in, you know, 1998, which there's nothing wrong with 98. It was a great year. I graduated in 98.
I don't know if your podcasts do this too, and it might be a bigger, depending on sort of the size of the production budget. But some of the podcasts, the sort of non-parenting podcasts I listen to, will put their transcript online, and that can be nice. I use one in my my undergraduate class from On Being, the Krista Tippett one on NPR, and she's just had some really wonderful speakers who are will speak about parenting, or about sort of families or communities and using technology. And she had one with Kevin Kelly, who's one of the co-founders of Wired magazine, but he has the most lovely story about the Amish community and choosing whether or not to use technology. And they and you would think that they would just out of hand, not use any kind of devices, and yet they sort of tasked two of their younger members with using a smartphone for a year, and then sort of reporting back to the community and involving the community in the experience. And the whole idea of it is this intentional selection of intentional selection of technology that is supporting the community, right? And it's a lovely story. But what I could do is to go through a 45-minute transcript, which was really quite long, but then just take that snippet, because sometimes, so we can play it, but then if people miss it, or if their audio isn't working, it also allowed me, that transcript, to just take out, a really nice quote or just a paragraph of that person speaking. So sometimes, getting the podcast words in sort of multiple media can also be useful.
On Being, I did something similar, Susan, a bit ago with an On Being podcast with Alone Together author. What's her name? Same idea. I used the transcript. We listened and read along at the same time, appealing, and then we paused and talked about each section at a time. I'm going to think of her name.
Kind of on the same line, do people use, I feel like families are all about Instagram, and we've kind of talked about this a little bit in the past. Is there a way to use those Instagram clips, or like search if you're Instagram? I don't know enough about Instagram, and I need to go in and just play with it, but does anybody have tricks around using Instagram in class, or finding good clip searching on Instagram?
I sometimes will take screenshots of
Okay.
posts on Instagram, but I make sure that their name is in the picture, and when I embed it into my stuff, I make sure that their name is in there. I'm not sure if that is potentially some copyright issues, but I'm trying my best to give them the credit where credit's due. That's how I've done it.
Okay.
I do the same, Naomi. I make sure that I don't cut off who said it. And so many so many people now put their little brand in that picture. So even if you crop, I'll make handouts out of those. Like like I did one of toddler hitting. Transforming Toddlerhood is another one I really like. She always has typos and it irritates me. She's like, toddlers, '*S, toddlers don't listen because. I'm like, oh my gosh, proofread. But I will she'll have like a 5-slide thing on how to respond to toddler biting or hitting.
Right.
And it's kind of putsy. It's a little putsy, but I will screenshot it and then I will edit it I will copy and paste it so that 5 screens are on one handout. It's colorful, it's fun. And I'm like, you know, because she does, here's what you can do, here's what you shouldn't do, and here's the why behind it. So, but it's every screen has attributed, you know, transforming toddlerhood on there. So that's
Okay.
how I use Instagram. It's blocked in my building. So if I were going to stream it, I would have to use my phone and AirPlay it to the TV. And I just haven't done that.
Sure.
I haven't found anything I really love enough to play it. But that's just me. I could do it.
Yeah. So do you guys have ways of like searching or then saving and like, or I feel like I see it and then if I don't deal with it right then when I see it, then it's gone forever and I don't know how to.
If you're in Instagram, you can just you can save it to your collection. So if you click on it, it's like here's Big Little Feelings, right? If you click on, where is it? Oh, I have to scroll all the way up. If you click on this little flaggy guy right there,
Okay.
save to and then click on save to collection, you can like I've done this twice. I have one called Feelings and one under School Age. So what you can do then is create a thing. I've done that on Facebook where I have
Sure, yeah.
1,000 things saved on Facebook. So when I have a topic on, let's say, temperament, then I'm like, oh, what did I find that was really good about temperament? And then I'll go to my temperament tab in Facebook, and then I find, you know, the last 3 or 4 things that I've saved. I've just started, and sometimes I will just drop it. I will screenshot it, edit it, and drop it immediately into my Google Drive file on temperament. So then when I open my Google Drive file, I'm like, oh, that's right.
Oh, that's right.
Found this really good picture. I just started doing that maybe this year. And so then when I open it up, I'll even put an asterisk at the beginning. So sometimes I'll find a blog, but I don't have time to read it. So I'll go to Drive, I'll open a document, I'll paste in the blog, and then I'll put asterisk at the top so that when I open that file, it automatically is at the top of my file. So when I open it, it's there. And I'm like, oh, this is a new resource. And then I use that to freshen up my lessons. So that's just because it's true. I have resources all over the place, but finding them, when you need them can be really frustrating.
For sure.
Can I just want to say I have my work computer at home. So I just put the Google Doc link that's that my signature now links to, and a lot of you will recognize some of those things that we talked about last week. I've added a couple, but that's in the chat now. So I can still email it to people, but it is also there. And then the other thing I'm struck by listening to Ellen is the blurred lines between, like, are we in our lives actually constantly curating material for our classes, right? Because like when I'm on Facebook and I'm trying to use more Instagram now for reasons I've already stated, like then all of a sudden everything is like work, right? So sometimes I'll email stuff to myself, Carissa, but then I realized like I ended up at one point with like 40 emails from myself that I never got back to with links that were cool, but it's hard. It's a struggle, I think, to feel there's this constant compulsion to have like the next best version of the same information or similar.
Right.
So I caution just staying gentle with ourselves about it.
For sure. Because you see like, oh, this is so cool. I can use this, but I'm not doing this topic for 2 more months. And by the time you get there, it's like, oh, what was that? Where was it? I have no idea anymore.
And that's where I started just sending it to myself in a way. And the emailing didn't work because it would just work. I'm like, oh, it's just at the bottom and I don't have time, but like actually filing it in the moment. And also I don't file everything. I just file things that look like, oh, this is really cool. Because you're right. It gets exhausting. Like, oh, your brain is constantly on, constantly. It's hard to turn it off.
Did we talk about this before? Do other programs have Instagram accounts, like a Facebook page with an Instagram? I found St. Paul, I think, and Red Wing. Does anybody else? Like you guys do? Okay.
But I have access and our coordinator has access. And I try to post once or twice a week. And I realized I was like, oh, I haven't posted anything for a while because I'm tired. I don't want to. I should, but I don't.
Can I ask a question that's not related to this by chance? I am teaching a grandparent class this semester, and I have taught a grandparent class for years and years and years. I just need some example, like not examples, but I need topics to talk about. I feel like I have used everything I have and I need fresh ideas, and it's making me feel panicked starting it next week and thinking, I don't feel like I have anything fresh. And the reason it has to be fresh is because it's the same grandparents that come every year. So it's like I have done everything and it is still the same grandparents. So I don't know. If any of you have taught or anything, I could really use some support in this area.
Do like a topic survey with them at the beginning with those grandparents, just by kind of saying, hey, we've done this before. What new things do you want to talk about? I don't know. Maybe they'll have some ideas.
Every semester. And we do a balance. I have found that they really like the balance of having something picked, a topic picked for the week, and then the following week doing something very organic, whatever kind of comes up. Nothing is coming up lately. I left last semester feeling like, oh, I never want to teach this grandparent class again. But I do, because I love it, because they're so wonderful. But I am just out of ideas, and I am searching like a crazy lady, trying to find things, and I am just.
Didn't someone share a couple months ago a grandparent site? Like it was a whole website dedicated to grandparents. Does anybody remember that? Maybe it's in our resources. Oh, UG left. Gosh, I feel like it's on.
Why do I think it was Greta that shared that?
Oh yeah, it was Greta. What was
Yeah.
that? I wonder if I have it somewhere.
Yeah.
If you have it, that would be great. Or else, I mean, I can email her too.
Are these, Megan, are these custodial grandparents?
No.
Okay.
Nope. None of them are. A few of them watch their grandchildren during the week. They provide daycare for their grandchildren, but none of them are custodial.
Okay. And how old are they?
I would say they range anywhere from probably 50 to 75.
Okay.
I would say. I feel like we have some younger ones.
Okay.
And then maybe some older ones.
Okay. Would they ever want to talk about non-grandparenting stuff that might relate to their age group?
So topics like that usually come up in that organic form.
Yeah.
And I am always willing to bring in whatever, talk about resources, whatever they need. Last semester was a horrible semester for me, but they gave me some specific ideas, which was great. I was very thankful for that. But then one of the grandmas is like, teach us things we don't know about. I was like, you could teach me, like I could learn from you. So I was very intimidated by that. And I pulled some stuff out that I thought, oh, this would be, ACEs was one of the things, like adverse childhood experiences, events. I thought, oh, that would be really fun to, talk to them about, to pick their brains. So I picked out ACEs isn't fun. I don't mean to say fun, but, like just some different things I thought it would just maybe give them a perspective. We did resilience. We did some different things, but I looked at my roster this semester. It's the same set of grandparents. I'm like, I don't know. I am completely and utterly out of ideas.
Mary Kay?
It's kind of funny, Megan, because many times we're thrilled if the same parents come back. So, but not the same grandparents. I wondered if you had ever considered parent-grandparent communication. That, because I think that we're now in an era where many grandparents have a whole lot of learning. And they may be reading the paper and reading about, back to sleep and all that kind of stuff. But still we need to nourish the ability to communicate with people with love and on behalf of love. Because I'm assuming that those grandkids are parented by your kids. And you want to be able to communicate with both of them really well.
I love that. Yes, that just like sparks something in me. We've talked about that before. Like one of the articles I brought in last semester was about how come it feels like the grandparents love their grandchildren more than like them, and so we had this whole discussion about it. It was really great. But I like that piece of communication. How do you communicate with your child who is the parent of your grandchild? Yeah, I like that. We've also talked about that sandwich generation. A lot of them are in that sandwich generation where they're taking care of their grandchildren, but they're also taking care of their parents. And but I could bring that back because it's been a couple of years since we've talked about that. So I could bring that one back too. But I like that communication piece.
Well, the other thing
Yeah.
too, Megan, that I sometimes forget about, whenever families say, tell me again about that thing you said last year. So just because it's the same group of families and like they're a year older, their grandchildren are a year older, we're another year into this stupid pandemic. So, so a lot of times what we feel is old and tired, these are things they need to hear again. And that's where like freshening it up and finding new ways to deliver it. But I just don't want to, I feel terrible that you are like, ugh, this was gross, but they clearly are coming back, but also it's not bad to repeat things.
I just wanted to also yes to that. As a mom who came back to Thursday mornings for 8 solid years. So on one hand, my parent educator probably hated that. And every time we had repeat subjects, it was like something new, or I was in a different place in my parenting journey, just like Ellen's saying. And so that doesn't help you with a grandparent who's all like, teach us something we don't know, because I wasn't like that. But like, you need reminders, you need a fresh take. I just want to encourage you not to just trash everything you've already done because you've already done it. That doesn't mean it's not completely worthwhile.
Thank you. Yeah, now that you're saying that, I feel like better about it. Like you're absolutely right, because some of these grandparents are coming with different grandchildren, so they are in a different place. It also just something that popped in my mind is I am taking the RD-PED with Heather Klein, her course, and I was just thinking, I could bring. I like the idea of like bringing some of those videos in so grandparents can see the different interactions that happen. And
that's totally fresh way of teaching.
Yeah.
That's totally not your directed, this is what you need to learn. It's drawing their own wisdom out and letting them discuss, which it sounds like from talking about your every other week, like wanting those organic discussions, it would really lend well towards that too.
Yes.
I think using videos and video clips would be fantastic.
Yes. Thank you guys. Thank you. That makes me feel better. I was just like, when I saw my roster yesterday, I was thinking, oh my gosh, it's the same set of grandparents. I love them. I love them so much. Some of these grandparents I've had for 8 years, and I like just want to eat them up and love them so much. And I feel like I learn way more from them than they learn from me. Mm-hmm. But I was thinking, oh my gosh, I have to like spoof it up a little bit.
Megan, let me just throw it out there. The thing that drove Becca to come back to her class for 8 years, if you have grandparents who like their societal motivation to come to ECFE, of course, is not the same as parents is. And so the fact that you have grandparents, people who, that they're coming back to you for 8 years, give yourself a huge hug, honey. That is amazing and fabulous. You are doing everything right.
Thank you. But I also think like, they're like, oh my God, it's her again. Because they have really no other choice. Because I just happens to be that I keep teaching this class. I'm not picking this class. I just keep happening to be the person.
They could vote with their feet, right? They could go, oh, her again? Oh, well, I've learned everything that one can do, right? But they're coming for community. They're coming for the space that you are creating, right? They're coming to talk about their experience of grandparenting, right? Topic or no topic. And you're allowing that, you're creating a space for that. You're creating a place that they feel good about themselves in this role, that they can connect with other people in the role. So, you know, they don't know all of that. They just know what it feels. And so, you know, they are not walking away from you. If anything, they are probably coming back because of you.
I appreciate those kind words. Thank you. Thank
Megan,
you.
something else that I thought, I was scrolling today. I'm sort of looking at doing a reboot on my values and character development, stuff like that coming up. And I found something Mary Kay posted. I'm not sure how long ago it was, but it was, and the link didn't work anymore. It was to Baby Center, but it was 20 things that past parent experts used to tell parents to do. And one of them was like, put your baby outside. And it was like a baby in a cage in the 30s from their high-rise apartment. So it was like these preposterous things, right? But you could show some of those as like, you could pick and choose kind of which ones, like in the 40s, women were told to feed their infants bacon as a way to jump off into, and so be humor, make it light, but then as a way to jump off and be like, what are some things that you remember your parents doing, or you remember doing with your children that they are now saying, oh my God, mom, you can't do that anymore, you know? So, and that, because I think, and then you could almost create a whole list of stuff to bring you into some current topics, you know, like not using certain words and not putting babies to sleep on their stomach, you know, like, yeah.
I love that idea too, for like a connection activity. That would be really fun for as we come back for a connection activity. That would be fun and lighthearted. Yeah, I'm going to look that up. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, and there was no particular one. It was just, I think I just did a search for bad parenting advice from long ago or something like that. And you can find a funny list.
And I also feel, I'm just fresh off of messy art class here, but this is maybe a simplistic idea, but I'll make it and take it. Doing some of those things, because we just made goop, which you know is the cornstarch and water. And when, I mean, the kids were at first so cautious about touching it in their hands, and the parents are all over this. And I'm thinking, as a grandparent, how cool I would be if my kids came over to my house and I had goop for them. You know, thinking of sensory experiences that that you can make and do with your kids, because they might have, you said, part-time care for their kids, and it's hard as a grandparent to know all these current things, you know, as far as play experiences, if you haven't been around young children for a while. So
if you want to sell online,
whoops. So, you know, making their own Play-Doh or goop or slime, or, you know, some of these things. And I mean, well, anything with glitter, you know, I mean, there's just, you could do some of these things just as a break from, if you see all these weeks of topics and you're thinking, you know, doing a make it, take it.
I love the idea. Thank you for that. I love the idea of make it take it's. I think that they would eat that up too, and just getting creative for them to have the ideas to obviously take back with their grandkids. Yeah, and it is a birth to 5 class, so I'd have to watch a little bit, but I suppose they could choose not to make it. If their child was too young, they could just choose not to make it. Yeah, I like that. Thank you. Thank you for that suggestion.
I just did obviously a quick YouTube search. Very easy to find exactly those videos. And I'm thinking that, you know, so I'm like right in the middle, my age is like right in the middle of your range there. I just Googled these, or just search these, so I don't know how good they are, but like the one on how parents viewed parenting in the 1950s, you could show something like that, because like my mother will tell me these horror stories about how they tied her legs together during childbirth, right? In the hospital she was in, right? And so, so I think that's just a dynamite idea to have them reflect back on, because, you know, who was it I was talking to the other day? Oh, I know. So, you know, there was a financial counselor was talking to my husband and I about, you know, sometimes it's okay to spend more, you know, on something because of what you'll get. And I said, you were talking to two people whose parents were from the Depression, right? That everything was like, save it because you may not have it until tomorrow, right? And it definitely shaped how they viewed things, which affected how they parented us, which like are these things that we've worked through. Anyway, I think if you find something that is on target and humorous, I mean, it doesn't have to be funny, it could just be, you know, something that you look at it and you're kind of aghast, they will love it.
Thank you. I'm going to do that. I just wrote myself a little note here, so I'm going to look those up. Thank you all for the suggestions. That was really great.
Yuji.
Hi, Maggie. I missed the part. My computer didn't work, so it sounds like Maggie is looking for something about grandparenting. And so Maggie, I presented a webinar. You know, I made a PowerPoint for grandamic, like, and the resilience. Like it was focused on grandparenting, and I would like to share this. I mean, I can share this with you if you'd like to see. And also, there are lots of resources from 0 to 3. So they have just launched a program. It is called Grand Connection, and it is all about grandparenting. So I didn't look at that program yet, but I do have the link. Right now I cannot find it, so I can when I organize the notes, I will put there for our chat.
Thank you, and I can send you my email too if you would like.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I just have to come in again. You know that I'm all retiring, and so I am going through my actual file drawer with all my files. And in the 1990s, either Newsweek or Time came out with a whole edition on parenting, and it was and it had stats of how parenting was in each decade. And I've got it, you know, I've got the 20s to the 90s. And then it goes in and says, like, I'm just picking something here that in 1920s, babies were put on the potty at well under a year. And an RN wrote, almost every healthy baby boy or girl can be trained so that he or she will not soil diapers after he is 8 weeks old. Okay, that's the 1920s. And then it talks about what the houses cost then, what a loaf of bread cost then, and what was invented. Actually, Lincoln logs were invented in the 20s. And what I did with this article is I made a sheet of every decade. And then I had just information, and I had the class read through the sheets and guess what decade it was from. And I did this in the 90s, but you know, it was this whole Newsweek or Time thing, and it was so fun because it's really kind of outrageous, and it also tells you what life was like in general, not just in parenting, but parenting was a big thing about that, you know. And I would be happy to share these. I could scan them because it's got really quite detailed information. And then it says on each of the sheets, I typed up, can you guess the decade? And then people, you know, we would go around, but that was kind of a fun thing to find my file. I had forgotten I had it. But for grandparents, that might be something that they would be interested in. I mean, you know, 1920s is a long time ago, so you wouldn't have to go back that far, but yet it's kind of interesting to see how philosophies were and how we've changed and evolved with everything. And by the way, in the 1920s, a loaf of bread cost 9 cents, and the average house was $4,113. So, you know, it's kind of a fun activity. I'd be happy to share that.
One of the things that I also see grandparents as being a great gift for. So I had my first child in the late 70s, and nursing was not in. It was unusual. And my mom was really afraid he was going to die if he didn't get real food pretty soon, or formula she could see. Now the kid was 8:15 at birth, 9:03 when he left the hospital a day later. And one day my grandma took me aside and whispered in my ear, "Nursing never hurt your mother." And she was a very non-confrontive person, so she would never tell that to my mother, but it was very helpfully and helpfully shared.
You know, I think parents, Lori, as I, you know, I mean, anyway, I think parents would enjoy doing that too, you know, because the thing that I'm thinking of is the awareness that it would raise for them as well about their own parents or their own grandparents, and sort of, because sometimes like I'll one of the things I'll do if I'm at an old bookstore is like to find old parenting books, you know, or like an original copy of Dr. Spock, you know, or something like that. And, or, you know, like the Ages and Stages, what was it? The something in Ames. And so, you know, it is pretty eye-opening, because especially when you have things like Dr. Spock, or this whole like medicalization of childbirth eras and things like that, you do realize how much it informed. And these were, you know, this was before social media and that kind of thing, but it was part of the culture, right? And it's the way that people were raised. And I think too, you know, to find them even from Minnesota, because places in Minnesota too have such deep cultural roots, that anyway, I just think it's a terrific idea. It's a lot of fun. And, you know, it could be really a fun thing to do with parents, not just grandparents.
You know, I think all you young people that are having babies will appreciate this one, but I just happened to look down in the 1930s decade, and it is advisable to stay in the hospital for 3 weeks after childbirth, Naomi, and avoid extra work of any kind for the next 6. And now what do you get, 24 hours, 48? I don't know.
I think we should make a poster of that and share it with all the new moms.
And the insurance companies.
Yeah.
And their
the
husbands.
pressure to like, just, you're done, you've got the baby, back to everything, right? Is no. And so many other cultures also, not just different times, other cultures, it's like you have at least a month, but probably 3 where you are cocooned, and maybe not in a hospital, hopefully, but at home and cared for while you're caring for your newborn.
One of my students from South Korea this is probably what, 10 years ago, and she was going to have a baby, and 2 months before her due date, her mother from Korea came, and she said, yeah, my mom will be staying with me for the year. And, you know, and there was plenty other things that this grandmother or this mom could have done, but it was an expectation that she would be there and live with her daughter for the full year to provide support as she went through, as she had, you know. And I'm thinking of like my own situation, going, that's so unfair.
I'm with you on that.
I had to try to explain to my grandmother, I'm Jewish, and so very deep-rooted Jewish traditions. And my grandmother, when we had dinner with her, was trying to say to my husband, like, oh, come over, I'll feed you while she's in, you know, while she's in the hospital, I'll feed you, come over. And I'm like, no, we have like 48 hours in the hospital and he's not leaving me. Like, you're not going to feed him there. You can feed him when he gets home, but like, in her mind, you know, like you stayed in the hospital for a week. So she's like, oh, you're not going to be there the whole time. She's going to be well taken care of. I was like, no, it's like 48 hours from the time I get there till the time they make me leave. It's like, no, you can't feed him while we're in the hospital.
Ellen, I have to ask what happened with that dad this week.
He didn't show up for class.
All right. I've been curious.
I know. I got it. Nikki texted me. She's like, hey, I've been thinking about you today. I was like, well, think about me next Tuesday. I got a text from mom earlier in the day, who I've never met, by the way. I have had no contact with mom. And she said she wasn't feeling well and that dad threw out his back over the weekend. So possible. Was it a way to not come to school? I don't know. He got a letter from our superintendent saying that it was his last chance to wear a mask appropriately, or he would be asked to not return to our building. So I guess we'll see if that was the final straw for him. So we'll find out.
I am going to take our final 5 minutes. Or maybe, yeah, I'm just gonna come in before we break up and offer, and Naomi, we have something for you. Yes. So by virtue of the virtual world, I'm going to share my screen. Actually, I'm going to upload. I think I can do this. My computer, I'm going to upload a file. So hopefully you are able to download this. I turn this into, here we go. There it is. Okay, just put that in there and I'm going to share my screen. There it is. So we got together. I mean, is this a unique group or what, right? So who else in your life are not only people who have or are parenting, right, or caregiving, who are also freaking professionals who are parenting educators? I mean, seriously. So we created a little Jamboard and we have little sticky notes of advice. And I put the picture there so you can save it and you can do whatever you would like with it. So yeah, I mean, you may be here next week, right? But we know that, she, right? Yeah, that she may be here sooner than that. So if you're not able to join us, we wanted to make sure that you had some of our notes of love.
Thank you. I'm speechless. Might be hormonal too, but
yeah.
This is awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And if she comes this week, good luck.
Huh?
If she comes this week before next Friday, good luck.
Thanks, babe.
And if she doesn't come this week, then we'll say good luck next Friday. What is the eviction date? Like, what is her drop? What is the final, like, get out?
So she is due on a week from Saturday, so a week from tomorrow. I have an appointment on the 7th with my OB. My clinic is kind of 41 and done, so I have a feeling on the 7th we will make a tentative eviction notice plan for the week of the 14th. I'm not sure what day within there, which will give her a week to decide to either come on her own or my doctor did actually use the term eviction notice, which I thought was kind of funny. So we will see. In my family, and I know that it's different for every person, but babies tend to hang out longer than their intended due dates. So it would not surprise me if she needed a little coercing to join the world, but I'm really hoping she decides to make her own decisions because I don't want to pick her birthday. That's weird. I want her to pick her own birthday.
Well, mine came early due to a huge thunderstorm that shifted the barometric pressure, and it must have done something because the maternity ward was packed. Like there are all these women that were coming in that all went into labor the same night when, when we shifted. So
Maybe we'll get a good snowstorm and that'll convince her.
there you go.
I was born in the 91 snowstorm. If that tells you how old I am.
Did you say the 91 snowstorm?
Makes you feel a little old, huh?
There you go, Megan. You could also ask the grandparents to tell their own birthing stories. That's always a good bonding activity. Well, we're here at 1, so thank you, everybody. This has been great. And again, Naomi, we will be thinking of you and holding you in our hearts this entire week. And, you know, so we'll just assume maybe next week if you're not here, or I don't know, I'll send you my phone number. I'll send you my phone number, and then you can text me, you know, because I know that this group and me are going to be the number one thing that you're thinking of, because, you know, just because. So
it's been the question at work this week is everybody is like, so how soon after she's born are you going to tell us? And I was like, remember that whole, you know, bonding for that first, you know, several days is really important. I was like, when I feel like picking up my phone is when you will know.
Yeah. Good for you. Good for you.
Before you have to come back to work.
Well, I get to come to work every day until she comes. So we will, yeah. I feel like, the day before I come back to work is the day that I feel like reaching out. But well, thank you, everyone. I really do appreciate it.
You bet. Okay, everybody. Bye. Have a wonderful week.